Day 107, July 3rd, 2026, year 5991 AM, 6th day of the week, Friday, 17th day of 4th month. Friday in the 4th week, preparation when the routine has cooled. Daily devotion by Pastor Vaughn. Galatians 6 and 9. And let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Numbers 28, 9 through 10. And on the Sabbath day 2 lambs of the first year without spot. This is the burnt offering of every Sabbath, beside the continual burnt offering and his drink offering. It is Friday again, the 4th Friday since Shavuot, the 3rd Friday in the wilderness quarter, and the most dangerous Friday of the month so far. Because the routine has cooled, the novelty has worn off, and the believer who showed up for the first Friday with enthusiasm is now tempted to phone in the 4th one with fatigue. Paul saw this exact phenomenon in the Galatian church and wrote a sentence the wilderness believer needs framed over every Friday afternoon. Let us not be weary in well-doing, for in due season we shall reap, if we faint not. Notice the structure of his warning. He does not say, do not grow weary of well-doing. He says, do not grow weary in well-doing. Now verse 28 sketches the liturgical answer. The Sabbath offering was beside the continual burnt offering. In other words, on the 7th day, there was not less work for the priests, there was more. The continual offering still had to be made, and the Sabbath offering was added on top of it. The Sabbath was not an example from rhythm, it was a thickening of rhythm. Faithful Friday preparation does not get easier as the weeks pile up, it gets thicker. The 4th Friday is the test of whether you actually believe the 1st Friday or just enjoyed it. What does it look like physically? The 4th week Friday is the Friday where you have to choose to prepare, where you have to push past the feelings that it doesn't really matter this week, where you have to refuse the small lie that says, one Friday off will not change anything. It will, not catastrophically, but quietly. The rhythm that holds believers through whole quarters are not the rhythms that are dramatic in week 1. They are the rhythms that are kept in week 4, then nothing dramatic is happening, and the manna tastes the same, and the Friday looks identical to the last 3. This is also where the believer is most tempted to add new things to compensate for the boredom of the old things. Do not. The Friday discipline is not boring because it has run out of meaning. It is boring because your flesh is bored. And your flesh's boredom is not a reliable theological indicator. Yahweh's rhythm gets their power from repetition, not from variety. The 4th Friday is the same as the 1st Friday on purpose. Repetition is how Sabbath enters the bone. So today before sundown, do the same thing you did 3 weeks ago. Cook the meal, close the loops, clean the conscience, set the table, not with novelty, with faithfulness, and let the unspectacular fourth Friday be the one that proves the rhythm is real. Reflection questions. Am I weary and well-doing this week? Doing the right things, but doing them with cooling enthusiasm? And what is it telling me about myself? Have I been tempted to add new spiritual variety to compensate for the boredom of faithfulness repetition instead of trusting that repetition is the point? What would it look like today to prepare for Sabbath with the same intentionality as week 1, even though nothing about today feels like week 1? Prayer. Yahweh, El of the continual offering, Lord of the unspectacular Friday, I confess that the novelty has worn off. The fourth Friday feels different than the first. The rhythm feels heavier. The preparation feels less inspired. And I have been tempted more than once this week to skip it, to shrink it, to dress it up in something fresh just to make it interesting. Forgive me for measuring rhythm by feeling. Forgive me for thinking that discipline is the problem when the issue is just my flesh growing tired of repetition. Teach me to value the unspectacular Friday more than the inspired one, because the unspectacular Fridays are the ones that build a believer. Carry me through this Friday in well-doing without weariness, and through this Sabbath in faithfulness without performance. Let the continual offering of my ordinary obedience be the one you delight in this week. In Yeshua's name, the Lord of every Sabbath that ever bore the flesh and built the soul. Amen.